Hey everyone, and welcome back to the HOG-POD, and what a brilliant interview we have for you today. But before we go into that, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the little bell, and that will notify you each time an episode drops. If you're listening in on Apple or Spotify or your usual podcast platform, same again, hit subscribe, and then all of the latest episodes will be directly downloaded to your device. Most recently, we have been on the road recording on locations, but today we're going to go back to our roots and bring you an interview with one of the architects behind Thunder in the Glens. If you've been to the event over the years, I'm sure you've seen it grow and grow and grow. And one of the minds behind that was, of course, many of you will know Mr. George McGuire. A huge thank you to Ben and Keith for putting this interview together. We love watching it. I'm sure you will as well.
Thanks for having us today, George. This is a really cool place. Thunder Road on the door, Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, it's a bit of that, but thanks for that. Yeah, I like it myself too. It's a kind of work in progress.
Yeah.
This is my kind of third venue attempt at it.
Right, okay.
Having moved from the garage to another smaller one and then to here. So it's still work in progress at the moment. Loosely based on a sports bar.
Okay, cool.
Come bikers bar.
Yeah.
The two. Kind of trying to get some of my memorabilia.
So you've got something here. Is this where it started for one of your hobbies then? We were talking earlier, you told me off, you're not a linesman, you're a referee.
I was a referee, yes. And all linesmen are first and foremost referees.
Right, okay.
And then when they're not refereeing, they can assist as they're now called assistant referees, as opposed to linesmen.
So we're not going TMO on this decision.
No,
You're definitely a referee.
No.
Okay. And you've got loads of memorabilia in here for both, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I've been very fortunate in both fields, both in my football before it, which not in a professional sense, but in high quality amateur football, into coaching and the kind of East of Scotland League and stuff. And then from there into refereeing, where I was very fortunate to travel a good bit of the world, eventually doing that, and then into the Harleys, which was a similar theme, getting into something that I didn't know what I was getting into, and it ended up kind of travelling the world and meeting so many wonderful people. And
you've got memories from everywhere on the walls, haven't you?
Yes, kind of trying to kind of squeeze everything in, and that's part of my problem, is the space to fit everything, and then sometimes you put something up and you end up that somebody comes in and they drop a fucking phone in the middle of your speech.
So you got bits and pieces from all over the world, George?
Yes, and it's good to come in and I sit and look at things, and it takes me back to times you've forgotten, or happy memories of things. So I think
it's all that guilty pleasure as well, isn't it? So if you're anything like me, what you can see is the tip of the iceberg, and the rest of it's stashed away from your wife or your partner, and it's you know it's there. It's your guilty little secret, but it's that the cream of the crop, isn't it? Is what you want to show people.
I won't tell you what you're sitting on. But there's lots of stuff around, and it's just trying, I suppose, to get some of it out there, and sometimes even shift it around, and kind of put something else up. But it's memories of kind of days gone by, and sometimes you kind of get caught up in the day and you forget what you've done and where you've been. So it's sometimes nice to kind of sit and reminisce and have a chat.
They call it a memoir.
Yeah.
Yeah, give it
and I think sometimes as well, if we sit down with people that, like you're saying, we know each other, we don't know each other.
Yeah.
We know very little. We know little bits of snippets. Yeah. Whereas you never ask questions like women seem to do. They can come back from a half-hour conversation and tell you the whole family history. Yeah. Whereas men just tend to think...
I know what helmet you've got and what bike you ride.
Or what team you support. Yeah. End of story. But how's the family doing? How's their wife or husband doing? They've been ill. Well, I don't know. I never asked. And they never said. So no, sometimes just come in and somebody asks about something, you think, well, that takes me back to then or whatever.
So what was your first interaction, I say, with Harley?
My first interaction ever, I suppose, with Harley was 1969. And seeing the movie Easy Rider, and seeing a Harley-Davidson on screen, and just thinking, wow. And maybe I was drawn a bit to the lifestyle of it, of just roaming along the free highways and going wherever you end up, and having fun along the way.
And what was the sort of, so like I'm lucky, I could walk into a showroom and buy a Harley, but that wasn't the case when you started, was it? There's waiting lists and...
Well, I didn't, I wanted to get a bike, even a scooter. There was a couple of guys at school had a scooter. I was so envious of them, how they'd chromed the side panels and done all the stuff with it. And they would come into school in the morning on the scooter. And I thought, oh, I'll get a scooter then. And Dad said, no, you ain't getting a bike. And
Right, okay.
that was the end of story.
Yeah.
No debate. So it wasn't until 1999, but in fact probably 1998, when I first fell upon the Thunder and the Glens.
Right, okay, yeah.
Up in Aviemore, just by pure chance. And that kind of rekindled my dream of having a Harley.
Yeah.
Because up until that time, and even at that point, there was only one dealer in Scotland.
Right.
And probably only, if you've had a dozen.
Was that Alvin's?
Alvin's,
Right.
down in Springfield Street, down Leith Walk. And probably lucky if there's another 10 or 12 in the UK and Ireland.
Yeah.
So they weren't common sights. But having gone to Thunder and the Glens, that rekindled my dream of having a Harley. And I did start taking lessons at the Edinburgh Cycle Training School, which was a twice a night thing,
Right.
2 nights a week for 7 or 8 weeks, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I have to say, when I sat my test at the end of it, I failed my test on my little 125. But my dream then was to ride a 125 for a few years and then try and buy a Harley. Unfortunately, in 1999, my father died, and my mother decided to sell the house and stuff, and she gave us a small amount of money each, and my sisters and myself. And to this day, she still thinks that money bought my Harley.
Right.
But when I said to my wife, what we're going to do with this money, and she said, well, you've always wanted a Harley. Why don't you put it towards a bike?
Yeah.
And I said, no. I says, I'm not going to do that. I mean, it's barely going to cover the cost of it, but no. She says, you've always wanted a Harley. It's your money. If you want a Harley, you get a Harley.
So that was your starting place?
That was the start. When I actually bought the bike, I'd gone into Alvin's on a Friday afternoon after work. I skived off early and just really wasn't looking to buy anything in any way because I couldn't ride them, so I certainly wasn't seriously looking to buy, but just picking up information. And I remember sitting on the Heritage Softail, and the salesman Brian Bonner came up and said, "Oh, is that you, sir? Was that you?" I said, "Well, I'm not really in the market for buying a bike, thanks." I says, "But yeah, lovely bike. I really like it." He says, "Well, I'll tell you what, it's the last Evo on the floor."
Right.
He says, "We're bringing in the twin cam." He says, "Now this is £13,000. He says, "I'll give you £2,000 off it," which we never do. He says, "So I'll give you it for £11,000 if you say yes today." I said, "You can reduce it all you like." I says, "But I'm not in the market, but thanks very much indeed."
Yeah.
So he said, "Well, here's my card. If any change your mind, give me a ring." I mean, whether it was an Evo, a V-twin, wouldn't have made any difference to me. I didn't have any technical knowledge of the bikes. It was a Harley. That was the end of the story. And the Softail, the Heritage Softail, was always the one that I'd seen and liked. Just something iconic.
It's
about
iconic,
it
isn't
for
it?
me.
Yeah, the shape.
So I went home and must have emptied my pockets and threw the card on the kitchen top and that. And my wife came in. She came bursting in saying, "Have you something to tell me?" And I'm like, shit. I've been caught.
Don't know what I've been caught at, but I've been caught.
I said, "What talking about? What?" She said, "What's this?" And she showed me the card. And I said, "Oh, that's a card from the Harley shop down Leith." I told her the story. And she says, "Oh, did you buy the bike?" I said, "No, I didn't buy the bike."
Yeah.
She says, I wouldn't spend that kind of money without coming in and discussing it with you. Is it the bike you want? Is it the bike that you would keep? You wouldn't want to change it in 3 months' time for a bigger one or a different one. No, I said, that is the bike that I would keep. She says, "Well, phone them up now and tell them you'll take it." So this was Friday afternoon, about 5 o'clock. I said, "No." I said, "Tell you what, we'll go in the morning, and if it's still there, it's meant to be. If it's not there, it's not meant to be." So in the morning, she woke me up and said, "Come on, quick, let's hurry up and go into the shop." And I went into the shop, and the rest is history.
Wow. And see, we were talking earlier, you said about your bike, your first Harley being a Heritage Softail, and you said about the Evo engine, and you didn't know what it was at the time. You must be aware now how iconic that engine was and the sort of place it holds in Harley riders. They go misty-eyed, don't they? When you mention the Evo,
Yeah, they do.
Go glossy and rosy.
Yeah, and it's probably taken a long time for me to appreciate that and realise it. Yeah, but it's kind of become the modern day, if you want to call it that, knucklehead or panhead or shovelhead, and partly the value of them, it retains quite a good value. Not that, I mean, I'm still very fortunate to have my original bike.
Yeah.
And it'll never be for sale. So
tell me a bit about it. So as I was coming in the drive-thru, I had a quick cheeky look in the garage, and it is a stunning bike. But it's not a standard bike, is it?
No, it's not a standard bike. I think it was 2002, I had it repainted and
Right, okay.
customised.
Yeah.
So the original fenders and tanks came off, and new fenders and a new stretch tank was
Yeah.
put on it. And taking the theme of the bike was a heritage softtail, I kind of wanted to keep the heritage of Scotland
Yeah.
within it, and family. And my family have a kind of long tradition in the military and the navy and stuff. So I've got the Battle of Preston Pans
Right, okay,
on one
yeah.
side, and the other side is the Cameron Highlanders in the First World War.
Oh, wow.
And both my grandfather and his brother fought in the First World War.
Yeah.
And so it kind of takes back to them.
Yeah.
And on the back fenders, I've got the Declaration of Arbroath.
Right.
But I've taken out the English and
Yeah.
said to any domain,
Right,
that
fair
will
enough.
not submit to any domain. So
Yeah.
I didn't want it to be in any way discriminatory against any individual or anything. Just
So I can sit at ease a bit more then.
yeah, you can say at ease, but just to show that I'm a patriot for Scotland.
Yeah.
I'll always promote and support Scotland in
Yeah.
whatever way.
But your reputation and people knowing of you goes far outside of Scotland, doesn't it? So when we introduced you earlier as Mad Dog, so I want to know about that because I've heard about Mad Dog and I've never known where it's come from. But when you mention the two words Mad Dog or George McGuire, we've spoken about Thunder. We'll go into that later because that's a whole different story in itself, and the stories you'll have will be huge. But you are well known, aren't you, within this world, and you've seen it grow, I would imagine, from where you started to where it is now, and you've been a fundamental part in a lot of that, linking up with things. So there's Ride to the Wall thrown in there as well. You've been involved with a hell of a lot of stuff. How have you got to where you are?
Probably by good luck and good fortune rather
okay.
than design. As I say, when I bought the bike, couldn't even ride it.
Yeah.
And I managed to talk the dealership, the Alvins, into giving me free riding lessons.
Right, okay.
Till I passed my test. Now,
Yeah.
given that I'd already, as I said, failed my test, which I didn't say to them.
Yeah.
They had a riding school attached to them.
Yeah.
So I went with Paul in the riding school, and I think within a couple of weeks I'd passed the test.
Yeah. And what was the test back then? What did that look like? So for me, I had to do mod 1, mod 2, and there's jump through this hoop, jump through that hoop. When I talked to my dad, and I'm not saying you're the same age as my dad, but my dad rode around the block, and the examiner stood there and maybe saw you twice if you're lucky, and that was you signed off and away you went.
Yeah, well, I'm probably older than your dad, but anyway, that's maybe another story. But
You're not my dad, are you?
You're nothing to do with me. Yeah, my test was very simple compared to what they go through nowadays.
Yeah.
Mod 1, mod 2, and whatever they do. It was really run on the road.
Yeah.
Right out on the road with an emergency stop thrown in,
Right, okay.
and all good.
And when you got your bike, you were aware of the chapter, didn't know about the chapter. Did the chapter even exist at that point?
The chapter existed, but I didn't know anything about it.
Right, okay.
And I think if I recall correctly, I got a free membership of the chapter with
Yeah.
the bike, and I went along to my first meeting in November, I think it was.
Yeah. And was HOG around at the time as well? Because that's a big discussion, isn't it?
HOG
and
was
chapter.
around. HOG came into being in 1983.
Right, okay. Yeah.
It's as long ago as that, 1983, yeah.
That's a fair old time, isn't
So,
it?
and the chapter started not long after that.
Yeah. And how long into riding your bike before you met the chapter?
Probably about a couple of months.
Right, okay. And you've been a chapter member ever since, haven't
Ever
you?
since, yeah. Since,
So how many years is that then?
That's me now in my 26th year now.
26 years, right, okay. Yeah. That's a fair old length of time. And you'll have seen that chapter. How big was the chapter when you started?
When
What
I
did it
joined
look
the
like?
chapter, there was about, I think, 70 members.
Right, okay.
Scotland-wide. There might have been
Yeah.
a couple from down south.
Because we didn't have Clyde Valley at that point, did we?
No, there was
had
no Clyde
Dunedin.
Valley. The only one dealership in Scotland, Alvins, and one chapter.
Right, okay.
Dunedin. Prior to Dunedin, it was the Caledonian
Right, okay.
club, who then they kind of broke away to become an independent member of Harley Riders of Great Britain club.
Right, okay, yeah.
And after that, Dunedin was formed by Alvins in 1993,
Yeah.
that the chapter was formed.
And for those watching, Dunedin, we had some visitors over from Germany, and one of the other chapter members, another George, told me off because I thought Dunedin was a combination of Dunfermline and Edinburgh, and that's what they've gone back to Germany to tell their chapter. Where does Dunedin come from?
Dunedin is formed from the Gaelic name, the old Gaelic name for Edinburgh.
Right, okay.
Dunedin,
Yeah.
Dunedin. So
So much like keeping the heritage with your bike, we're doing that with the chapter name,
Yeah,
keeping the heritage
exactly,
of what,
yeah.
what it is. That's cool. And in that time, obviously you've seen it grow. What's been the most exciting things you'd say you've seen happen with the chapter?
The biggest thing, I suppose, is the increase in the number of people joining the chapter.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's down to as well as people being able to afford the bike.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that's valid nowadays.
It's getting more and more
with
difficult,
the
that,
price
isn't
now.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. When I see the prices at the bike show the other week there, I
Yeah.
just thought, "Phew, if I was coming into it nowadays, I'd have to go over to the Triumph stall."
Yeah.
But I think seeing the number of people that come into it and get the pleasure from it,
Yeah.
I think the chapters allow people to get out on their bike and go places and do things that they might not otherwise be aware of.
Yeah.
For example, when I joined the chapter, I didn't have a clue what I was going to do with a bike or where I was going to go. I didn't know anybody else that had one. I'd never met anybody that had one.
Yeah.
So other than when I was at Dunedin Glens in 1998. So when they come along and they get other like-minded people, even if they're new to ride like I was, they give you ideas. They put events on, you go to those events, and that then gives you the confidence. I mean, I remember my early days of hanging on for dear life when guys are going along and they're doing 70 mile an hour, thinking, "Oh, I need to keep up, I need to keep up." You know, but getting people out, getting them involved in it, and getting them taking part in it is the big thing for me.
So there's always a question, and obviously two blokes in a room, and you ask that thing of, how did you have a successful marriage? How have you stayed with the chapter as long as you have? Because you'll have seen like cheeky upstarts like me, and I'd like to think I've matured a bit in my 5 years, but when I came in, I was like Tigger. I was in the door, I was like, I know this, I know that, I'm going to do that, we're all going to do this. How have you stayed the time that you have?
Oh, I suppose, I've seen many like that. But I also think
you could disagree with me. You could tell me that was marvellous.
No, I think I've seen many like that because I can see myself there too.
Yeah.
Coming in, I wasn't young at the time. I suppose I was 45, 46. But I appreciate and I don't forget that I came in as a newbie, didn't know, but I saw these people that could ride the bikes and what they were doing, and I'd like to do that. And I did see things in it that I didn't like, I suppose, and there were times when I thought, is this for me? Because it's not always for everybody. Everybody's horses for courses. But I hung in there. I got to know some people very well. And they kept me in it. I maybe kept them in it too. We kind of hung together within the chapter, if you like, and went to events. And from that, you then just kind of loosened up a bit, relaxed a bit more. And as you say, you realise that it's about do what you want to do, not trying to copy someone else and be someone else. Be yourself. Be true to yourself. Be safe, and if it's going too fast for you, then either one, say to somebody, or you can say, "Look, I'm going to drop out and I'll meet you wherever you're going." But being safe's the one thing, but enjoying it is the other thing as well. So, and for me, when I could get the pleasure out of it, I wanted other people to share in that pleasure too in the chapter, and I think that's what helped me after I became director to making it probably one of the most, if not the most successful chapter in the country at the time. And it was because people were coming, they were participating, and they were enjoying themselves. And my mantra was always, you will only get out of something what you're prepared to put into it.
Leads us on to a good topic. We've been speaking about the chapter. What advice would you give for new members coming into this world? Because it can be a bit daunting, can't it? We're all there, leather-clad, pins, beards, roughy-tufty bikers. What best way to approach it?
I think it's probably the most scary thing that a new member will do, walking into a room full of Hell's Angels. That's what they see. And I've been in places where we've been invited to events, Hard Rock Cafe, come along to our 50th anniversary, wear your biker gear because that's what we want. And then you hear people behind you, they're Hell's Angels, they're Hell's Angels. And you do kind of grin to yourself, because I suppose deep down within us there is a wish that we were Hell's Angels. But the advice I would give to new people coming in is, take your time. Do not be afraid. They're all normal people beneath that facade. The leather gear is safety gear. The waistcoat with the patches, the pins, whatever, one that tells you the club they're from, the chapter. It gives you a bit of their life history with the pins and the patches. And that's your road in to speak to them and say, oh, what's that pin about? What was that event you were at? What was that? So my advice is, come in, speak to people, listen to people, take on board the advice, get involved, go to events, meet people, mingle. Don't rush into huge friendships. Take your time, Do not try to be anybody else. Do not look and see how somebody can do wheelies, donuts or whatever on their bike. Take your time, ride to your capabilities and your abilities, and go out and meet people and get involved and enjoy yourself.
I'd say that's good advice, for definite. So when we talk about chapter as well, there's always hot topics. I mean, social media probably wasn't there when the chapter started. It is now. There's loads of conversations about chapter versus HOG or HOG versus chapter. For me, they're not any different. They're part and parcel of the same. What would your views be? Because it's always cost, isn't it? People moan about, oh, I just have to pay HOG to be part of the chapter. You can't have one without the other, can you?
No. Well, firstly, you've got to have the Harley to join HOG.
Yeah.
You've got to join HOG to be in the chapter. And it's been an argument forever and a day. Why should I have to pay HOG and then pay for a chapter? And there may be debates around what do I get from HOG, and that's a kind of answer. But what I think you get from HOG is priceless.
Yes.
You get a club membership worldwide.
Yeah.
Over 1 million people worldwide. You go there with your patch on. If there's another HOG member there, they are going to speak to you. That is for sure. And certainly if you've got a Dunedin Chapter patch on your back, there's probably met somebody somewhere in the world that comes from Dunedin Chapter. So you're getting access to over 1 million people worldwide who share the passion, who want to share the stories with you.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate to have met many people from around the world. And you do get invitations of come and stay with me.
Yeah.
Come and ride my bike. I'll meet you wherever it is. And I know when you're new, you think, and I did think, these guys all know everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know a soul. You know, I'll never know these people. I know I've just met Keith over there.
Yeah.
You know, but I'll never remember him. I'll never see him again. I mean, he comes from Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And I've been in Europe and met people that have come from Milwaukee that I've met somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I have friends who've told me they're on the ferry going over Lake Wisconsin, and somebody saying to them, "Oh, you wouldn't happen to know George McGuire, you know, Mad Dog." Oh, we do. You know, so it's a huge world, but it's a tiny world.
Yeah.
In the Harley one, you'll make many friends. But there's also the events to go to with like-minded people.
Yeah.
They're safe. They're family-orientated as well. They're not the ruckus events that people seem to think they are. Social events are on, touring the world with groups and stuff. It's priceless. But and on top of that, you get a magazine.
This is true, and it's back in print now. It's not online.
So no, I think there is a bit, but I think it's probably the best money people will spend if they're serious about riding their bike and wanting to meet people.
I think it's a big leveller as well, isn't it? So we all come into this world, and there's 400 and something members in Dunedin alone at the moment. And being part of that chapter, you've got an illustrious background, you've done this, you've done that, you've done the other, but at that point we are on a level, and it gives us something to talk about. I think if you see it, even in other motorcycles, like you'll pull up at a petrol station, I see another person in a Volvo, I don't stop, "Oh, hello, how's the Volvo? Lovely to see you." But you see another person on a Harley, and particularly if they've got a cut on and they've got their patches, that's their story, isn't it? They carry their story with them. Have you always experienced that? Has that been the thing in biking for you?
Yeah, I've seen it all over, everywhere I've gone. And the one time when I was really disappointed I had my cut on was in a bar in America on the beach. I was at a rally down in Ocean City, and I was in a big bar in the afternoon and just standing, kind of having a beer. The only beer because I had my bike with me.
Yeah.
And a gentleman shouted, I just heard a shout over the bar, "Mr. McGuire! Mr. McGuire!" And I turned around and I looked around, there was a big guy at the other end of the bar. He said, "You really from Scotland?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, I worked in Rosyth with the American Navy."
Right, okay.
I was in Rosyth, said I worked there, and he said, "I always swore if I ever met somebody from Edinburgh, Scotsman in America, I would buy them a drink. So can I buy you a drink, please?" And I thought, well, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So bought me a drink, had my drink, and then, very unusual for a Scotsman, I turned around and said, "Well, can I buy you a drink back?"
Right, okay.
To which he replied and said, "No. When I said I would buy you a drink, I meant I would buy you a drink all day."
Wow. Okay.
To which I said, "Shit, I've got my bike with me." So that was a story for me that really tells what it's about.
Yeah.
The other side of the world. I've never met the guy never bumped into him. He's never met me.
Yeah.
But because he had worked here and he's connected with it, and he wanted to repay something for his
Yeah.
memories, and that will happen a million times over with people.
Yeah, and Thunder in the Glens. So its name comes from a storm, I'm guessing. And like any good storm, it starts with a rumble, doesn't it? It's not that big cacophony to start off with. We were joking earlier about the word cacophony, George, and he said I've got to get it in somewhere today. So cacophony, big loud sound. So you were there at the rumble.
I don't know what's a cacophony.
I don't fully understand it. It's a big word about big noise about something apparently. Yeah.
I was at the Rumble. The first one was in 1967, but
Yeah.
I first went in 1968 purely as a tourist.
68.
68. No, 1990. 1998.
I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah.
1998.
1998. Thank
Right.
you for correcting me on
Cool.
that. Yeah, too much to drink.
It would have been in black and white if it was in 68. Yeah.
Yeah, 1998 was the first one I went to, and it was super for the times. It was a big event, but you're probably lucky if there was a couple of hundred, 200 attendees. And the rally site was on Tarmacadam, two marquees, two large marquees. One was the bar, and one was the entertainment tent. And outside there was bike parking, and there was in the early years there was a stunt show, and there was balloons and kind of chapter games and stuff. But nothing kind of like to what it's grown today. Very kind of small scale, but big in its day.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of visitors came to it. But again, nothing like now, because they say there's only 2 or 3 trade stands, so nothing to attract people in other than seeing the bikes on what would have been the Saturday ride out up the mountain.
Yeah. So you started in 1998, and there's 20 years between us then, because my first Thunder was 2018. So the growth in that must have been mega. Have you got any sort of stuff from back in the early days? Have you got any memorabilia from early Thunders?
I've got, as you mentioned, just some kind of small bits here.
Yeah.
Since I opened the folder, the first one I see here is my letter of the 23rd of January 1999 from Ali Robertson, who was the dealer principal at Alden's Harley-Davidson. That's where I bought my first bike. And he's talking about there, hoping we're looking forward to the coming season and enjoying the rally. And he sent this out to all the Harley owners north and in the Edinburgh area and stuff, and relevant contacts should you wish to join Dunedin. So that was me probably getting signed up there and contact him if I need any help. So Ali Robertson was a lovely guy, dealer principal there. And as he says there, at the time there was only one dealership in the country, and there was a north section, so there's a section there with the north guys at the time. So yes, it's the newsletter went up to the north section. It's an old grainy black and white, so it's kind of difficult to see who's who. But back then I would have known many of them at all, and then kind of having a squint at it myself, I can't make out any, although I know many of them now. Many of them are still members from long standing. So that was my early introduction to the chapter and the rally.
So that was the old newsletter then. I see you've got some pictures as well. Can we have a look at those?
Yeah, sure. Let's see what they are. Looking here, this is an old one, the Santa run from the former Edinburgh Harley-Davidson dealership in West Mains Road.
Yeah.
As you can see, it's Santa, 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 Santa. A few faces I can make out there. Stuart Kaplan, I think that's Mary beside him. A few others, but the mask are kind of. But it's an old picture anyway, I can see that.
Yeah.
So
looks like Scotland's worst bank job.
Yeah, heading off to the Venture Centre on our Christmas toy. And so Venture Centre is one of the places we've been support for a long time. So another story there. So
that was a picture of the Santa Run. That's something we're still involved with, isn't it? With the Venture Centre, and you were the start of it, and you're still the driving force for the Venture Centre.
Yes, still the driving force for the Santa Run and the Easter egg run to the Venture Centre. The Venture Centre, very close to my heart. It's a centre in Craigmillar for underprivileged kids. Kids there are given their breakfast, they're collected from school and given something to eat at night, they're given help with their homework and other additional support and holiday schemes they get. In fact, one of the things we did a number of years ago was one of the chapter members paid to hire a bus. So we took the children on the back of the bikes down to Yellow Craigs for a barbecue on the beach, and the parents were taken down on the bus. And then on the way back, some of the parents got a ride back, but the other kids who didn't get a ride down, they got a ride back too. And what really resonated me with that day was I was speaking with Susan Heron, who runs the Venture Centre down there. She's the lead worker. And we were standing watching all the kids, and there was some dignitary from Craigmillar that was there as well, and kids and the parents were splashed about and having a great time in the sunshine on the beach. And Susan turned to me and said, "You know, George, this is their holiday."
Yeah.
And it still swells my throat up when
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think of that moment. So doing good like that for kids there was just fantastic, and to add that on to Christmas and Easter where they would get nothing.
Yeah.
I know there's more popular rides that people can go Christmas time and Easter time that get a lot more publicity, but to me this is one that hits locally and it goes directly to the people that are in need. And we also helped them 10 years ago when it came up on Facebook recently. Their centre where they host it all was kind of run down, dilapidated inside, the roof was leaking. So I managed to get some stuff from B&Q and such like, got paint, brushes, overalls and things, and a group of us went down. We repainted the whole interior for them.
Wow.
Another member, Brian McCabe, who had a flooring business, he stripped the gym floor and repolished it and varnished it for them. And then Trevor Newman, another chapter member from Wolverhampton, he sent up 2 of his workers and he paid £10,000 to have a new roof put in the centre. So the chapter has a great relationship with them, and the welcome we get. I mean, there's kids who saw the first ride in their mother's arms are now standing as teenagers watching the ride come in, and some of them actually now standing with their own kids to watch it coming in. There's always a warm welcome, there's always a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, burger, rolls, chips, whatever. Great welcome, and as far as I'm concerned, it will continue as long as I'm able to get on the back of a bike.
I've only made it to one, and it was brilliant fun, and I intend to get to more. I promise I will get there. You've done loads.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming to one, Ben.
Yeah.
If everybody came to one, then that would be great. But as I say, it's not the most popular event. It doesn't get the greatest publicity for it, but it's vitally important that we help these kids. And I'm gratefully appreciative of the guys that do come along. Some that have come once or twice, but others that come regularly. Bob Laidlaw, since he joined the chapter, been a regular supporter of it, great supporter of it. Alan and Hazel Kinghorn, great supporters of it. And the long-standing one that they always look for being there is Willie Newell. God knows why they look for Willie Newell. He's certainly not the most good-looking guy in the chapter, but even this year when he couldn't make it because of illness, the first person that Susan Hearn asked me, "Where's Willie?" So Willie was missed, but Willie's there every year. And to anybody that's ever been even to one, thank you very much. And if you can make more, we'd love to see you.
Yeah. And it really does hit you in the feels. See, when you're there and you see the impact you have, it's instant, isn't it? The difference it makes in those kids, just their faces light up when they see the bikes and coming in. And it's not about the presents or the Easter eggs, it's about your time that you're there with them and you're spending with them, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I think for a lot of these kids, it's people going in and showing some time for them, taking the time to go and visit them. They get their pictures taken on the bike and they touch the bikes. Some of them are a bit scared of them at the time when they first see them, but when they see others going on them and getting their pictures taken, it's moments you can't buy.
No.
And for me, you asked earlier, what do you get out of being in a HOG chapter? You know, what do you get from HOG? That's the things you get from being in HOG, being a part of these things that money just can't buy.
No. So going back to the early days of Thunder then, you've got more pictures I see.
Yeah, there's some here, kind of up here, and there's a nice one here from the back.
Yeah.
I can see my own kind of there, my dog tag on the back, my
Yeah.
dog McGuire, with Jim Anderson, one of the stalwarts of Thunder in the Glens. I'm obviously doing an interview for television there by the looks of it.
And there's a sneak peek of face paint in there as well. That seems to be a running theme with you, George.
Yes, yeah, well, we always say try and promote Scotland as best we can. It's Scotland's national event,
Yeah.
Scotland's national HOG event. You can see the kind of bike parts in the bit there, and Fran Anderson sneaking in on the bike mirror there.
Yeah.
Well, quite a good snapshot of Fran and Jim there.
And how big was the event when these pictures were from?
When these pictures were from the early days, maybe 500-600 people.
Right, okay.
When it moved back to Aviemore, it had gone to Perth in 2003 while Aviemore was rebuilt.
Yeah.
And for some reason, from 2004 on, the numbers increased greatly.
Right, okay.
2004 went up to about 600, and then it quickly went up to 1,000
Yeah.
and 2,000, and then around about 2009, 2010, it suddenly sprung into 3,000. So
Anyway, don't hide the pictures.
No,
There's some
yeah,
good-looking faces going on in there, isn't there?
Yeah, here we've got Mr. Sheen, as he was called.
Yeah.
Because he had this wonderful new stuff for polishing his bike.
Ah, right,
which
okay.
he would never tell anybody about, but once they found out, you know. And then we've got Paddy here, Paddy McDermott, and Beechgrove, two former members of the chapter who still ride bikes, but I think life kind of busy for them now, so they're doing other things. Still see Mr. Sheen at the Hearts games for our sins.
Yeah.
This is probably an iconic picture of Thunder and the Glens.
Yeah.
Two stalwarts, two head road captains.
Is that Sandy?
That's Sandy Scott,
Wow.
with his face painted, and Frank McGregor sharing a beer.
I wouldn't have
Thunder and
recognised Frank
Glens.
there. Huh.
Yeah, well, it shows you how long ago we're all getting a bit wrinkly
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, this one's a chapter outing up to Speen Bridge, and we did a trip to Skye there. Quite a few members in there. As I look at that there, there's myself as well as John Naples, Stuart Kaplan, Mo.
Another picture that wasn't taken yesterday, though, eh?
No, not taken yesterday, no.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to look through it and see how many are there. Jim Anderson's in there. John Naples.
And I take it that trip was before the bridge.
Yes, it's before the bridge, before you go over.
So a proper adventure to get there then.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a great weekend, thoroughly enjoyable. And this one here, we've got Randy and I think George McLennan at one of the choppers in the Orange County Choppers.
Yeah. I think that's the thing as well. So you mentioned George there. That's one thing that stands out with Dunedin. There is a good cohort of long-standing members, isn't there?
Yeah. I think probably the big upsurge in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
2003, 4, probably when the rally came to Perth, which was further south.
Right,
okay. So, maybe not as far up as Aviemore, and so more people kind of becoming aware of it, and maybe had been riding around on bikes, a bit on their own, and then came across the rally and then joined up. But there was a big 2004, 2005 big upsurge in members.
And that's part of the draw, I think, for me personally, for definite, for Thunder. The rally's incredible, but the ride to get there is phenomenal, isn't it? It's an adventure in itself to get to Aviemore from a lot of the spots that people ride from.
Yeah, it's always been, I think the A9 gets a very unfair criticism.
I was terrified of it. The first time I rode up and I heard the A9, I was like, I'm not going.
I mean, the road is what it is.
Yeah.
But I think for riding a motorbike on it, it's just a fabulous road to ride. Once you get past Perth and you get onto the single sections on it, it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Or you can do some of the back roads to get there, coming through the old roads of the old A9, through Pitlochry and all the other places, Blairgowrie and stuff like that. Not even Blairgowrie, that's the wrong road. But
but that's why conversations like this are important. So for me, we've spoken about the Evo engine. I'm a Milwaukee 8 kid because of when I came into Harley. Coming to Thunder, I'm aware of the old road, but I don't know it. And like these stories are crucial. I think for chapters to continue to succeed, it's that idea of it's not whitewashing anything. It's not pretending something didn't happen. It's embracing the history and knowing that it's there, because that's what makes like the rich tapestry of what Dunedin is. You're a thread that runs the whole way through it. You mentioned George, there's other people, Paul, Sandy Kaplan, all of these faces, Frank McGregor. They're all threads in that tartan, aren't they? In that plaid, sorry, because it's fabric. It's not tartan. That's what's the crucial part of this, isn't it? It's learning where we've come from so we can move forwards.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's a shame for new members coming in because they don't take the time or they get the opportunity to go into the history and find out more about it. They get wrapped up in the present day. Yeah. And Thunder and the Glens, as you say, going along there today, 10,000 people, they say, on the streets of Aviemore over the weekend. 10,000 for a rally, if you're saying that 20 years ago, was unthinkable, unless you were in Milwaukee. Yeah. But to go to Aviemore now with 10,000 people, when it wasn't always like that. Yeah. And you tell people that in the early days, the first chapter rally was down to Ayr, 40 people. Wow. And within a couple of years, it had moved on to Aviemore, where you got 200 people going, and then it kind of stuck at that for a few years, and then, as I say, 2004, 2005, it kind of moved up to 600, 700, 800. And then for some unknown reasons, 2007, 8, 9, it's blossomed into 3,000 paying customers going to Thunder and the Glens. By the time you add on your volunteers and all your sponsors and stuff, you're getting closer to 4,000.
Yeah.
But the crowds on the street now over the weekend to see the event, the ride out, especially on the Saturday, the mass ride out through Aviemore onto Grandtown, which was another addition to it, is just phenomenal.
I think it's the closest you can ever feel like a celebrity. So I've done the ride out a couple of times as like a guest or a punter, and then now I've marshalled it. And like last year, following you, so it was awful weather, and it was liquid sunshine, we'll say. But even at that, there's still people there, and they're desperate to see you. And it's like as you ride around that corner, you come down the hill, and you can't explain it, can you? Unless you've been there, you've got to. You need to come and see it to experience it. Do it on a bike or stand and watch them. But you round that corner, and all of a sudden you feel like somebody incredible, don't you?
Yeah.
It's an experience.
Well, as you say, you come down the hill, and the crowds are packed there at the top of the hill and coming down. I mean, they're queuing up from 10 o'clock in the morning to see it. And then you come down the hill and you see it, and then just that bit as you turn the corner, that used to be one man and his dog standing looking at you.
Yeah.
Now, as you say, they're 10, 20 deep.
Yeah.
And they're standing on the walls at the Cairngorm, and then you look up the street, and it's lined the whole way to the end. I mean, the village limits have been extended now.
Yeah.
And the line extends to that limit now, the new houses, and people are coming out. And I always wear sunglasses whether it's raining or not.
Yeah.
And often it is raining behind the sunglasses.
Those dusty
when
eyes.
I see these people there, and I just think to myself, why?
Yeah.
As you say, we're there enjoying our weekend. A lot of good comes from the event, which is great, and it's great to think that you're helping keep people in jobs and helping local charities and good causes and stuff. But they come out and support it in all weathers, as you say.
Yeah.
And people that come for the first time, they do come back and say, that was amazing, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was a very humbling experience for a lot of them, that people come out to see them and say they're grateful for it. But it's not something I think that I've ever experienced at any other chapter rally in the country, because they do have crowds that come out to see them, but the fact that we are in the heart of the town, the village of Aviemore, and people don't have to travel far to see it.
So if you've never ridden it before, I think the closest thing you can describe it to, and how I try and explain it to my mates, when you watch the Tour de France and you see the crowds, it's as close as a fat lad like me is ever going to get to the Tour de France. So for me, it's that experience. See, for you then, this year's going to be different for you, isn't it? It's going to be a different feel. You're going to be there as a guest this time. You're not going to be there with everyone asking you a million questions, so you can get there and enjoy it. How are you feeling?
There's mixed feelings in it. Yes, it'll be my first time as not rally coordinator.
A civilian, so to speak.
A civilian, so to speak, yep. And not being recognised as I go down the street. And
that's not going to happen.
Nobody wanting to speak to me. And maybe now nobody will offer to buy me a drink because they know I'm available to go and drink it. Whereas in past years, obviously,
I think you still owe me one from last year.
Yeah, it'll be a strange experience, but I think one that I'm maybe looking forward to as well, that I can sit back and look at what I've helped to achieve over 20 years. Maybe it was the right time to stand down and let others take it on. Only time will tell. But for me, I think to go there, sit back and relax. I never ever drunk over the weekend because of the responsibilities of the role. Now I'll be able to go and have a few beers with people that I've seen over the years but never had the time there to sit down and have a catch up with them. And probably one of my saddest moments this year from that is that a dear friend who I met when I first joined Harley and HOG and stuff, I met a guy, Ned Hillier, from Thames Valley Chapter.
Ned's an incredible man.
Ned, the incredible man. And I say I met him in my early days, a gentleman to the extreme. Former fireman, him and his friend, I can't remember his friend's name, so I apologise for that. But two ex-firemen, their bikes done up with all the fire regalia and stuff. And every year Ned made a beeline to find me and spoke to me and asked how I was doing and said we must have a beer and catch up. And we'd never yet had that beer. Sadly, we'll never have it.
Yeah.
So take the time to
I'm going to make you a promise though, George, because actually Ned I didn't know him well, but Ned was as excited about me riding as I was, and I think that goes back to Hog, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
you meet these characters, and he was a phenomenal man, and I think just his excitement about me being on a bike really pushed me to carry on and do it. So you and I are going to find a space at the Cairngorm, and we're going to have a pint, and we'll
Yeah.
raise one to Ned.
So yeah, it's guys like that are around, people that do say it. So to anybody out there, if somebody says to you, let's go and have a beer, and you can't drink, go and have a coffee, but take the time to see them.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I'm excited about this year, and I think we've spoke about, it's going to be definitely different for you at Thunder, but I'm super excited for you to experience Thunder the way I did in 2018, because you've been in it, so you'll have seen it grow, but you won't necessarily have appreciated it from the outside. I really hope it is as good a year for you as I'm wanting it to be, if that makes sense. I want you to see that buzz and that tingle about Thunder.
I think it will be.
Yeah.
I think Thunder lends itself to giving you a buzz. If you don't get a buzz going to Thunder and Glens, then either there's something wrong with you or it's not the place for you.
Yeah.
I'll leave you to decide that for yourself. But no, I mean, I'll get the buzz there. I'm looking forward, as I've said, to having time to catch up with people.
Yeah.
But I'm also looking forward to having time to going round to see what's going on, what's happening. I mean, the Raleigh village itself is much larger and bigger than years gone by. There's new traders there that I know, some of the older ones, and I spend a bit of time catching up. But there's lots to go and see and just visit to take in. But the Cairngorm has lots of acts on thing going on down there. The Wink and Owl is relatively new, and I know they've in past years had great bands and stuff on. The gospel choir that's on a Sunday morning, would love to go and see them.
They were brilliant.
Yeah, so it'll give me the opportunity to go and see these things and enjoy them.
Yeah.
And other bits, I mean, I've been there during the rally when it's on, but often I'm only there to do something and then rush away again. So give me time to relax there, stop there, even catch up with the members of staff that work in the places that I know from when I go up there during the year to in the past organising things. I have time to stop and chat and just enjoy the atmosphere.
And being there as a punter, what do you hope is the future for the rally?
I hope it continues in a good, successful vein.
Yeah.
And I'm sure those that organise it now, taking it forward, if they get the help and support that I've had in the past, or even half of that, then I'm sure they'll make a successful job of it. And I'm sure of that. But I think in a bigger picture of it, it's reached a scale now that they have to either decide that that's it, reached its limit, and that's where we hold it, or if you're going to go bigger, and however that may work, it's going to need more support from the local community and local businesses and local business people to help that go forward. And there was signs of that happening last year. I don't know what's on go now, but I'm sure it will continue to go from strength to strength.
Yeah.
And that the organisers will hopefully get as much satisfaction out of running and organising it and delivering it for the thousands that turn up as I did.
Yeah. And what do you think then, now you've got this time on your hands, what's the future for George? Where's that looking like?
Well, time on my hands. I thought when I retired 13, 14 years ago that I had all the time in the world. And those years have flown by, and the one thing about being retired is you never get holidays. You never get a day off. You're retired. But no, I mean, as a lot of people know, I've taken on a role as local councillor in Haddington in the last couple of years. I'm really evolving into that and enjoying that. I'm getting involved in local issues. I've not done it for political reasons, although I do believe that some people were astounded when they heard my particular political persuasions.
I won't hold it against you.
And I'm not the nationalist that they seem to think I was, going about with my face painted. But I will say I'm a patriot. I'm very patriotic about my country and will always support it. But I'm enjoying being a councillor and doing local stuff there. It helps me get involved again with people in less fortunate positions sometimes than others, which is the reason I got into it. It'll give me more time to spend with Lorraine. She's been off her bike for the last year. Now she's got her new hip. Hopefully, coming months she'll be on that, and we'll get out doing some riding together.
If nothing else, she'll be able to keep up with you now and tell you you've got another job to do.
Yeah, and of course there's Harry, our grandson, who I spend a lot of time with him. He's getting ready for high school next year, so it's a crucial time for him coming up in his education. So trying to help him and guide him the right way. and hopefully keep him on the right track and things. So
Get him on a Harley.
well, he knows that the Softail there is his
Yeah.
when time comes. Whatever happens to the others can happen, but the Heritage Softail he's already said is his. He's had seats on it, he's had a couple of runs on it. Whether or not he gets into bikes, I don't know. At the moment, football's his big passion.
Yeah.
And I won't mention Hearts too much because that's maybe we're doing well just now, but that bubble can burst very quickly. No, he's a good lad. I get a lot of pleasure out of him. I enjoy the time I have with him, and I'll make sure I make the most of the time that I have with everybody and what I do, which is what I've always tended to do in my life.
So I think the big thing, that one of the biggest themes I'm picking up in all of this, and it's the relationships, isn't it? And it's people. I think George isn't just George. George is always something wider. You've been involved with a lot of people. I'm proud to know you as a person, and I'd call you a friend. And I think that's part of you, isn't it? It's the relationships. That's your success, would you say? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment. Yeah, I do like meeting people, speaking to people. I won't force myself on people in any way, but I like to be open and even just courteous sometimes. Just you're going down the street, see somebody passing, say hello. My biggest gripe in life is probably these people that come towards you, particularly at work. And it happened often. You see someone come along the corridor, and just as you go to say hello, their head turns into the wall and they walk past you.
Go the other way.
And you think, what does it take to say hello? And yet, I mean, today there was a perfect example. One of the neighbours was walking past, and Lorraine was out with me, and the woman was just about to walk past and just go on. And I just sort of said, oh, hello, I don't see you often now since we both lost our dogs.
Yeah.
And she stopped and spoke for 10 minutes about how she had missed her dog and what she was doing. And yet, if I hadn't just said hello and made a little statement, she'd have just walked on. And yet she went away quite happy, having made a wee story and a bit of interaction. So for me, I think just the interaction with people, the response from them. Yeah. And there are people out there that don't want the interaction response, then that's fine. You can let it go. But you find just so many times that people welcome it and they do want to have a natter, have a chat or whatever it leads to. And as I say, I've been very fortunate in work life, biking life, refereeing life to meet such wonderful people that you don't see them for a long time. You don't have to keep up every day, but when you do see them or meet them or come in contact with them, it's like you've never been away. Yeah.
So we spoke about the chapter rally and the future of that. What do you think the future for Harley and HOG is? Big question for you.
Yeah, it's a big question, and it's probably a difficult one to answer.
Yeah.
I think the current financial climate for a lot of people in buying a bike, so for new people coming in, is going to be a big factor, and determine how many people come in. Unless people are prepared to come in a lower market, second-hand market. But I think challenges for HOG are, in the past, HOG were well known for running events throughout the UK, Ireland, and indeed in Europe and abroad. Those have dropped drastically in recent years, and their method now, their ideas is they support chapter events, such as they support Thunder in the Glens and Irish Bike Fest. They're doing quite a bit of touring with bikes to give people an opportunity to ride them at demo rides like they did up at Glencoe last year. And I think that's a way of trying to entice people in, try them. I mean, there's still a lot of people out there that think, oh, Harleys, tractors, why would I want to ride one? But I think the reality of it is when they ride them, they realise that it might look like a tractor, but it's a modern day tractor. So that does get them in. But I think the big challenges for Harley, and indeed for other events that chapters run, is the cost of putting events on. You need to get the support for them. We've mentioned Thunder, it gets the support. The people might think that makes a lot of money. It does, but that money goes back into putting the event on. There's not a lot of profit in it. And for Harley to be organising national events and regular national events, everybody wants them on their doorstep in their area. It can't happen all the time. The money's not there to do it. And I need probably the staffing's not there. It's probably fair to say that the company, prices are going up. That shows that prices all over for things are going up. They're competing in a very challenging field with other major kind of bike builders companies. So the way forward for Harley is going to be difficult, especially HOG, I think. They may go down the line of supporting more events, but those events are going to have to be substantially bigger than some of them are currently to make it viable for Harley to invest in supporting them.
And we need these guys to turn up, don't we? That's the thing.
Yeah.
If we put it out there, it's Field of Dreams. We'll build it, but they need to come.
That's right. People need to come to them. And if that means people selecting what they go to, you know, and sometimes I maybe think and look at local things and think maybe there's too much on regularly, whereas cut some of the stuff out and have more bigger events, if you like, a day trip or an overnight trip, as opposed to weekly social meetups that can cost people things. So challenging times, but I'm sure Harley as a company are up for it. But it's, you say, down to people, members attending events, supporting them. Even in chapter events, people need to support them. If they don't support them, they die, and then people say, oh, we don't do anything anymore. If you don't do anything, you know, then it will die. It's like, you know, the butcher shop's closed down, the baker shop closed down. Oh, it's a shame. Did you ever go there? No. Well, that's why it's closed. So I'd say to people out there, if you're in your chapter, support your chapter, go to the events you can go to. If events are not what you want to go to, then tell your chapter, let them know what you want to go to, and feed through your director back to HOG what you would like to see. But as I've said all along, in everything, every day walk of life, every day, you will only get out of life what you're prepared to put into it. So give what you can give. Not everybody's got the time and money to do it all. So be selective if you have to, but go out and enjoy doing what you're doing and be safe.
Absolutely. Bring solutions, isn't it? Tell us about the problems, but tell us how we can fix it as well.
Absolutely.
Not just moan at us for it. So it would appear that we've lost the sunlight. It's gone down. I've got 6 missed calls from my wife because I need to get back for my dinner. So I want to take the chance to say thank you very much for having us, George. Thanks for inviting us into your home and your man cave, Thunder Road. It's been a real pleasure.
No, thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure for me too. Sharing stories and experiences, some that I've forgotten about. So welcome anytime. Please do come along to Thunder Road. And for those of you out there, I look forward to seeing you at Thunder in the Glens as you thunder up the road. Go safe.
And remember, we all owe him a beer.
I'll look forward to that. Thank you.
Thanks again, George. It's been a real good time talking to you and hearing all your stories. Thanks for you guys at home. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully we're giving you what you want to hear, and look forward to seeing you the next time round.